Did computing become a global phenomena on its own, or did someone plan it and make it global? Hi, this is David Allen Greer for the Global Code. We are going to consider that question today in an episode entitled Global Connections. We are so comfortable with the idea that computing is an international activity that we have forgotten how we got here. The internet links Boston to Bangalore, and we believe that once the connection was made, the two cities became fast friends with no need for an introduction. Yet, the computing communities of Boston and Bangalore did need to be introduced. And more generally, the whole idea of global computing needed to be organized and structured. The surprising element of this story is that a United Nations agency, the UN Educational, Scientific, and Cultural Organization, or UNESCO, played a central role in connecting academic researchers and commercial data processors around the globe. However, UNESCO represented a model of international organization that was old by the time the computer came around. Its form had been articulated in 1919 by the League of Nations. It ultimately proved unequal to the forces unleashed by the computing era, forces that it helped support. UNESCO's involvement in computing began in the mid-1950s, as it was one of the leading advocates for state-sponsored science. UNESCO encouraged governments to create science agencies and developed the basic models for such agencies and promoted them amongst the countries of the world. This work drew the attention of Isaac Auerbach, a former employee of the Eckert-Mauchly Computer Corporation. He approached UNESCO in 1955 because he wanted to find out what people were doing in computing outside of the United States. "Does anybody have any idea what's going on overseas?" he asked a group of friends. He answered his own question with, "We really don't know," adding that only a few of us have even casual contact with foreign computing people. Auerbach then drafted a proposal for an international computing organization, and he won UNESCO's support for the initial work of setting it up. However, his vision was a very different kind of organization than the kinds that UNESCO typically supported. "We agreed that dealing with bureaucracies of government was not something with which any of us were enamored," Auerbach recalled. So his strategy was to promote an international organization that would be independent of government representatives. UNESCO reluctantly accepted Auerbach's idea. He noted, however, that after he and his colleagues decided to create a society based not on government representation, but the representation of professional societies, that the UNESCO people, with one or two exceptions, left the room. However, UNESCO still continued to provide some funding to support his new idea. On January 1st, 1960, Auerbach and his colleagues launched the International Federation for Information Processing, IFIP, with Isaac Auerbach as the president. As few countries had national professional societies devoted to information processing, IFIP began with only 12 members. Some countries, like the Soviet Union, were represented by their national academies of science. Others, like the Netherlands, were represented by a National Council on Mathematics. To help strengthen and expand this new organization, UNESCO promoted national computer societies. This group created a number of computer societies, notably those in India, Zimbabwe, and Brazil. At one point, UNESCO suggested that IFIP might want to support an international center that would provide computing resources to scientists who lacked ready access to such technology. But Auerbach and IFIP rejected this idea. Auerbach noted that this kind of organization was no longer a viable concept, and that computers were no longer so rare that one had to travel to an international center to find one. Indeed, computers and communications technology were quickly changing the international environment in which IFIP operated. To many people, the local expanded to become the international. Technology made it easier for national organizations to reach across borders and promote their ideas. By the mid-1950s, the IBM Corporation was already a major force for computation. After its reorganization in 1964, the ACM began promoting itself as an international organization. And of course, the IEEE Computer Society, which was then part of the newly formed IEEE, followed a similar route. Today, Bangalore and Boston are well connected and have plenty to say to each other. The international computer societies perhaps talk less than they once did. IFIP still has a purpose, says the current president, Mike Hinchy, though it's not the same one that it had in 1950. Hinchy added that IFIP is now less about building international connections and more about setting global goals, about asking what we should do with IT on a global scale and implementing it locally for the good of all. This is David Alan Grier for Global Code. Take care.